and welcome to Mondays with Maria Gould. Today is March the 9th, 2026. Thank you for joining me for podcast 52. Today's topic is the Reiki legend, the history of Reiki. Now, if you have never heard of what Reiki is actually two Japanese words. It's spelled R-E-I, which means universal life force, and then Ki, K-I, which is energy. So Reiki translates to mean universal life force energy. So whether you call this the energy of Reiki, prana, chi, many different cultures spoke about this energy that is all around us, this universal life force energy that permeates all things, gives all things life and vitality and health. And we can learn, this energy, we all have access to it. But what Reiki does, this healing art that was created in Japan by Dr. Mikado Usui. And Mikado was actually, you'll hear this in the history, but he was actually a Christian minister in Japan, and he was discovering that the lost art of how Jesus healed people, and discovering in ancient texts that it's been forgotten by the churches how to heal as Jesus healed. And that was his pondering, that was his inquiry. And the history that I will share today helps to kind of point at that. And I hope that you use it as an invitation if you have never experienced a Reiki session. It is a beautiful process where you lie on a massage table and completely clothed, and you usually get covered with a blanket and get all cozy. There's nice music. And then the practitioner asks permission to place their hands upon you or above you. And they tap into the Reiki energy and allow that unconditionally loving universal life force energy, whether you call that the love of God, the love of Jesus, to flow through them into their hands and into you. It is such a beautiful process that helps bring peace and tranquility. It helps with so many issues of inflammation. If you are not signed up for my weekly newsletter that comes with these podcasts, then I encourage you to do so. There's great articles that I share of different healings. There's so much amazing healing modalities out there, and not that I know an expert about all of them, but so many of them are so helpful. An interesting fact before we get into the history of Reiki is Dr. Oz, who is quite famous right now. He was on Oprah a long time ago, and he is now kind of part of, that revolutionary team in the US that is trying to bring back proper science to the regulatory system. So Dr. Oz, his wife is a Reiki master, and when he did open heart surgeries, he found that people that would ask for or once they were offered understood what Reiki was, if they got a Reiki treatment before and after their surgery, they tended to recover almost twice as quickly as those that did not. In Japan, because Reiki is from Japan, Reiki is available in the hospitals in Japan and can really help speed healing and help complement all of the other medical treatments people are receiving. So have an open mind, and even though you might not understand it, this ancient art of healing has really been talked about even back in biblical times, the laying on of hands, right? So let's get into the Reiki legend. Now, I teach Reiki classes in the Theravada tradition, and I condensed this history from a book called Essential Reiki by the author Diane Stein. So just to give homage to actually the person that did the research about this, and I just took that history and condensed it, shortened it a little bit, so that my classes and my students would understand the history of Reiki and how Reiki came really from the palaces of Japan into, you'll see in the history, but how it even got moved into the West and became worldwide. And now more and more people are familiar with Reiki. Many people have become practitioners for their own health and that of their family, which I do encourage people to do. It's a beautiful tool for your own well-being as well as your family. But let's get into the history. So I'm going to read from this teaching is in the Level 1 Reiki class. We always learn about the history of Reiki. So I will just read from my Reiki Level 1 manual. So the story begins in the mid-1800s with Mikao Usui, who was principal of the Now, forgive me because I'm not always perfect at pronunciations of Japanese words, so forgive me. The Doshiya University of Kyoto, Japan, and also a Christian minister. One morning, some of Dr. Usui's students came forward and asked him, Sensei, which is another name for master or teacher, we would like to know whether or not you truly understand what is said in the Bible. Dr. Usui responds, I think I understand the Bible, my students. Why do you ask? That's wonderful, Master. We would like you to perform just one miracle for us, please. Can you heal the sick as Jesus did, Sensei? They would ask. Oh, I'm not sure that I understand it in that way, my students. Master, we are graduating soon, and you wish us to go forth and preach and teach and heal the sick, yes? Teacher, you have taught us the first two, but what of the last? The students questioned Dr. Usui. He pondered this and replied, I see where this might be a problem for you. I think I will have to go out and find how to heal the sick as Jesus did. That same day, Usui began his 10-year search for the secret of healing. Usui approached his masters and teachers, inquiring about the healing powers of Jesus. When Christian authorities in Japan told him that this healing was not talked about, much less known how to perform, Usui began searching outside of Japan. Mikao traveled to the United States, where he lived for 7 years and studied to receive his Doctor of Theology degree from the University of Chicago Divinity School. He also learned to read ancient Sanskrit, the scholarly language of India and Tibet. This is one of our oldest written languages on the planet. Usui still found no answers to his questions about healing. Dr. Usui was also busy sending letters to different bishops of various sects and churches, asking them if their particular religion knew how to heal the sick. Their response was always similar. No, I'm sorry, we do not. We send sick people to doctors. During the years he had been studying theology, of course, he had several courses in comparative religion. And because he had been raised a Christian, Usui was amazed to discover the Buddha. As Jesus had done, the Buddha also was reported to have had the ability to walk on water, heal the sick, and raise the dead. In a lot of aspects, the stories of Buddha and Jesus were undeniably similar in their teachings and philosophy. Now, just on a side note, the ancient yogis kept this knowledge of how to reach enlightenment, and they do teach it. With enlightenment comes this understanding of union with the divine energy that Jesus referred to as his Father. Just a side note. Usui thought that perhaps the Buddhists kept their records. Returning home to Japan, Mikao began checking out the Buddhist monasteries, starting with the largest of the 16 Buddhist sects. Mikao still received the same answer. No, we have forgotten how to heal the body. We let doctors deal with that. Mikao kept searching, and finally he came to the last monastery in Japan. It was a tiny sect in his town of Kyoto. When Mikao asked to see the bishop, the little man of about 72 years of age with a round baby face came forward. Dr. Usui presented the question to this little man. Does the Zen know how to heal? The man pondered and responded with no longer. No longer? Usui inquired, you mean at one time this temple knew how to heal the sick? The little man responded, oh yes, but we discovered that when we healed the body, man still had a sick spirit. And when he was not whole, the healing wouldn't stay, basically, is what he said. So we spent so much time healing the spirit that we've forgotten how to heal the body. Man is still not whole, but now we do not know how to heal the body at all anymore. Mount Koriyama is just outside of Kyoto. Dr. Usui, in frustration, swung around and faced the mountain. He threw up his hands in utter frustration. This is the end. This is the last place I had to search. All of these years, remember he's been at this for 10 years, there is no other place to go. I'm through. I'm finished. The little monk said in a calm and gentle voice, Usui Sensei, forgive me for speaking, but I must tell you that the Zen never say this is the end. We always say this is the beginning. We believe that when one door closes, another opens. And I believe that if you are truly dedicated to your search, you will again learn how to heal the body. If it was once known, it can be known again. Do you truly believe that? Usui questioned. I do, otherwise I would not have said this to you. You are the only one who has given me any hope. May I study with you? Mikao humbly asked. The little Zen master responded with love in his eyes. Of course, all are welcome by the Zen. Usui moved into the monastery for 3 years, and from dawn to dusk he read and studied the sutras in Japanese. Now, sutras come from ancient Indian Sanskrit texts. Sutras mean seed truth, and they are a condensed sentence of the teaching. So they have a statement, a seed sentence, and that statement is thus explained in the sutras. Very, very deep, wise knowledge about the makings of the universe and the energy that pervades all things. It is like how God, creator, the universe, created the universe with energy, with sound. Very fascinating. Even our Christian Bible speaks of this. In the beginning is the Word. If you go back and look with an open mind, all religions begin with similar teachings. I wonder why. Okay, let's go back to our story. So he studied the sutras in Japanese. Mikao always remembered the words of the little Zen monk, "If I do not find the answers I seek, I am not going deep enough." Mikao finally came across in the sutras how to heal the body. This formula was very simple, like 1 + 1 = 2. It did not state, however, how to activate this energy. So again, he's finding that energy is the true source of healing. It comes from within us, from the universe. Usui decided to meditate atop Mount Koriyama for 21 days, or until the information came to him. Usui got himself ready. As he was leaving the compound, outside the gates was an 8-year-old boy. Usui told that boy he was going to the top of the mountain to fast and meditate for 21 days and nights. "I should be back here at twilight on the 22nd day, but if I am not, then you come and get my bones because I am dead." Mikao was very dedicated to receiving his answer again, to answering his students' pondering of how to heal as Jesus healed. Later it was told by Dr. Hayashi, whom was appointed head of the Masters of Reiki when Usui made his transition, that Dr. Usui had his darkest moment just before the dawn. You know, you hear it said that it's darkest before the dawn. It is true, and not just of nature, but of our own internal awakening, right? I went through my darkest days of suicidal depression, which truly was the beginning of my awakening, right? So sometimes those dark days are the dark night of the soul that starts to awaken us to our reality of who we really are. So back to our story, you hear, oh, hang on. It's so dark in that darkest before the dawn that you cannot see your hand in front of your face. On the morning of my 21st day of fasting and meditating, this is Usui talking, I grappled around for the last stone. And he had gathered 21 stones and in a pile in front of him. Because he was fasting and meditating, he was in altered states of consciousness to open up his spiritual connection with the divine. And on that last day, that stone he threw down the mountain to keep track of his days, because he kind of was lost in meditation. And he yelled to the universe. He said, "My Father, my God, this morning of the 21st day, I pray you will show me the light." And he threw the stone away. Mikao suddenly began to see a little beam of light move towards him. It became larger and larger and moved faster and faster and nearly frightened him to death. He jumped to his feet and turned to run, and then Mikao caught himself, swung around and shouted, "No, I have spent years in my search. I have just asked to be shown the light. I will not run away." He planted his feet and braced himself, suddenly whispering, "Even if it kills me, I will accept the light." With that decision made, the light simply burst upon him. It struck him in the middle of his forehead and knocked him unconscious. The next thing he knew, he saw tiny bubbles, millions and millions of bubbles, all moving from right to left in every color of the rainbow. From the palest pink to the deepest cerise, from the palest green to the deepest emerald. And after all these glorious colors, the gold came. In the gold came the white light, and then in the very center of each white bubble was a gold figure in Sanskrit, that ancient language. Each bubble would come and stop as though it would silently say, "Here, Usui, learn this so you will know it always and be able to use it." It would go and another would appear. He was so afraid of missing something that Mikao didn't even blink. Finally, he felt he had received all he was searching for and so much more. Dr. Usui humbly whispered his thanks and profound gratitude. After such a fantastic experience, Usui was excited to travel down the mountain and share his experience with others. He hoped that he was strong enough after 21 days of fasting to make the trip. He started walking down the slope and smiled in amazement. That is the first miracle. I've fasted for 21 days and I'm strong. Becoming so excited, Usui began running. And as he was running down the mountain, he stubbed his toe, tearing his toenail clear back. In doing this, as we all instinctively do, he sat down and held his big toe. He said, that feels strange. I'll keep holding it, though, until the pain goes away, though. When he took his hands away, it was completely healed. That is the second miracle, he said to himself. As Macau progressed down the mountainside, he came across a restaurant, so he thought he would stop and have some breakfast. The owner's little girl came around the corner with the worst toothache. Her family was too far, and they lived was too poor and too far from Kyoto for her to receive proper treatment. Macau decided to see if he could help. He asked the little girl to sit beside him, and he placed his hands upon her face. The little girl's eyes opened in amazement. You are no ordinary monk, she replied. Why do you say that? Usui asked the child. Your hands are so hot, and you make magic because my tooth has stopped hurting. Now just realize if you've never experienced Reiki, the practitioner's hands can feel very hot, very warm, very soothing. But the energy that permeates into the body really helps with pain and inflammation. So that's wonderful, my child. And that is the third miracle. Now remember, if you know anything about different religious teachings, usually there's miracles needed for people to become saints or thought of fondly in that religion. So just a pointing. When Usui had his breakfast, he experienced the fourth miracle. After 21 days of fasting, he was able to eat a heavy meal without pain and discomfort. After reaching the monastery, Usui discovered his sensei was bedridden with terrible arthritis pain. With permission, he placed his hands on the old monk's hips and on his back, the source of the arthritis. And to help the old monk forget his pain, Usui shared his experience on top of the mountain. After a few moments, the old monk interrupted and said, Macau, you have magic in your hands. You have made my arthritis stop hurting. Usui said, isn't it wonderful? This is the Reiki that has been lost for so long. How shall I best use this gift, Sensei? They both decided to pray for the answer. At breakfast the next day, they discussed and decided that Usui should go down to the streets to the beggars. If the beggars were healed and came to the monastery to begin a new life as responsible citizens that could support their families, the city would be a better place. A little history about the beggar king of the Orient. He is about 20 notches above the Godfather of the United States. There is nothing that goes on in the city that the beggar king doesn't have his hands in, including decisions of life and death. Usui dressed up as a peddler, traveling into the city and approaching a couple of beggars and demanded, "Take me to your king. I have a wonderful gift for him." They resisted, but after much hassle, Usui was finally brought to their king, and again, with a lot of resistance, Usui was given permission to heal the beggars. Day and night, he worked, starting first with the young. Usui healed all that came to him for help for 7 years. Usui sacrificed his own personal life in servitude of others. But one day he came across a person whom he recognized, and approaching the man, he asked, "Why are you so familiar to me?" "I was one of the first people that you healed, Usui." "I healed you? Then why are you here? You can find honest work and support your family now." "Oh, I did that, but you know how much self-discipline it takes to get up for work every day? Do you know how hard I had to work just to make a few pennies? And my family still starved. I would rather be a beggar." So this is going back, and remember what many of the bishops and everything said, that when they healed the body, the spirit was still sick, right? So Usui sank to his knees. "What have I done? The churches were right. If the spirit is not healed, then they are not complete. Reiki given away makes beggars of people." And I agree with that. There is something about the psyche that when people expect to be healed for nothing, they don't heal. They don't heal. It makes them spiritual beggars. Then he stood up and he said, "I cut off all beggars. Never again will Reiki be given away. Always the flow will have to be completed. Always there will have to be an exchange for Reiki. I now know how to heal the body and the spirit." Usui knocked the dirt of Beggar City off his feet and went back to the monastery. Ever since that day on the streets of Beggar City, Usui added his own principles to the Reiki healing energy. Just for today, do not worry. Just for today, do not anger. Honor your teachers, parents, neighbors, and friends. Give thanks to all living things and earn your living honestly. In the mid-1920s, Usui met a man that became his predecessor and most dedicated disciple. That man was named Dr. Chujuro Hayashi. He was a 47-year-old naval officer for the Japanese Navy. In 1930, Dr. Usui passed on from this world, leaving Hayashi as the Grand Master of Reiki. Hayashi carried on his tradition of teaching and healing from his clinic in Kyoto. He took Reiki from the slums of Kyoto to the palaces of Tokyo. It was in his small clinic in the middle of Kyoto that the next Grand Master would be found. In Hawaii, halfway across the world, lived Hawayo Takada. She lived and married there and had 2 small children. In October 1930, Takada's husband died of a heart attack at 32. Takada was left to survive on her own, supporting herself and 2 small children. Over the next 5 years, Takada developed nervous exhaustion and severe physical problems. She was diagnosed with gallbladder disease that required surgery, but had a respiratory condition that made the use of anesthetics dangerous for her. Her health continued to deteriorate, and she was told that without surgery she would die, but the operation might kill her also. In the meantime, Takada's sister had died, and Takada returned to Tokyo, where her parents resided, to tell them the news. Soon after that, Takada was hospitalized and diagnosed with more bad news. She had an appendicitis, a tumor, and gallstones as well. She was scheduled for surgery the next morning. That night, Takada kept hearing a tiny voice whispering, "The operation is not necessary." She heard the voice again just before they were getting ready to put her under anesthetic. Takada sat up and asked the doctor if there was another way for her to heal. The doctor replied, "Yes, if you could stay in Japan for long enough. He then told her that of Dr. Hayashi's Reiki clinic. Takeda was taken there the next day. She remained there for 4 months, receiving Reiki, receiving healing, and was completely healed in mind, in body, and in spirit. Takeda, excited by this Reiki energy, asked to be trained in it. At first she was refused because traditionally she was a foreigner, right? And this was a Japanese healing art. And also she was a woman. And at the time that there was still a little bit of masculinity control, I guess we could call it. So she kept pressuring to be taught this beautiful healing art. So, where was I? Sorry, my eyes lost where I was. She was so excited she asked to be trained, and at first she was refused because she was a foreigner. At this time, Hayashi did not want Reiki to leave Japan. With much persistence, Takeda became a Reiki second-degree practitioner. In 1937, Takeda returned to Hawaii and opened her own Reiki clinic in Kapaa. She obtained a massage therapy license to protect her legally from the harassing authorities. In the winter of 1938, Hayashi visited Takeda in Hawaii. They toured and lectured together. At this time, she received her master training, and Hayashi announced her as his successor. He insisted that she not give the training away without charge. He insisted that He also told her that if he ever summoned her, she was to come to Japan immediately. 3 years later, in 1941, Takeda awoke. Turning the page. To see Hayashi's image standing at the foot of her bed. She knew she was being summoned and took the next boat to Tokyo. When Takeda arrived at Hayashi's clinic, all the other students and masters were already there. They were told by Hayashi that a great war was coming. And you know what war that was in 41, right? And all involved with Reiki would perish. He feared that Reiki would be lost forever, and therefore made Takeda, a foreigner, his successor. Hayashi also had been called to duty. He was a naval officer, and as a healer, he would not take a life. So on May 10th, 1941, Hayashi stopped his own heart and died in the presence of his students. The Great War predicted was World War II, and Reiki was no longer available in Japan. Takeda was the means by which Reiki continued, and she brought it first to Hawaii and then to the United States, Canada, and Europe. She lived to be 80 years old, but with the health and vigor of someone half her age. Takeda trained hundreds of people in the Reiki system. In the last years of her life, Takeda initiated 22 Reiki masters, both men and women. She died on December 11th, 1980. Since Takeda's death, Reiki has gone through many changes in the West. Phyllis Furimato, Takeda's successor and granddaughter, was named the Grand Master of Usui Traditional Reiki. Teaching techniques and methods have undergone changes, and several branches of Reiki have evolved, all correct in the eyes of Takeda. Reiki is changing and evolving since the time of Dr. Usui. It is reaching more people, and some non-traditional teachers are no longer charging high fees. So just a little side note here. In Japan, when I was looking into my training of Reiki, I was very intrigued. It was very, very expensive. Like $11,000 to get your master's. And even here, in a small little town in northern BC, It was $1,100, and in my early 20s, that seemed like an impossible number to get my Reiki mastership class. When I moved to Vancouver Island, I met the Theravada practitioner, and part of the Theravada tradition was to honor the teachings but not charge the high prices that made it difficult to reach the common person very often. So I did my master training with Renee Robinson on the island. Hello, Renee. And never have looked back. It's an amazing healing art. So just to wrap up our history. So Reiki has changed and evolved since the time of Dr. Usui. It is reaching more people. Some traditional teachers are no longer charging high fees. How the Buddha and Jesus taught healing are no longer known. The origins of Reiki need to be honored while at the same time respecting the changing world and the needs of the people and the earth. So I hope you have enjoyed learning a little bit about the Reiki history. I find it a very beautiful and fascinating history, that it really did come from a Christian minister. So I know that sometimes Christians are taught that the things of the East are evil or wrong, but if we look past the fear that we were taught, you might notice that it's actually very similar to what you were taught. All right, so thank you for joining me today, and wishing all of you a wonderful, beautiful Monday, and blessings. Have a beautiful week.